This is TempleOS 5-minute random code walkthrough episode 63, and I'm your host, Terry Davis. And where are we today? Today we are in Sprite Main. Okay, well, this is the Sprite editor, and we are looking at where it adds a bitmap. So if we hit Control R for the sprite, make sprite number 1. Now let's do a line. Then okay, transparent. So we're doing a bitmap, and it says make. Now, follow along here, folks. Okay, so after it's selected the bitmap, then wait a minute. Okay, if we say use these extents, it comes in at this go to label. If I say use these extents, it comes in at this go to label. Otherwise, it comes in at drag out new extents. Okay, so I'm going to drag out new extents. Let's follow along. So we have two corners of the rectangle. And we set the pen width. We make it dither. I think we say black and red or black and white. I don't remember. Anyway, border draws a border, just a box, whatever you want to call it. Then we get a message, and then we sprite screen in it. We redraw the border, and we redraw. And if we ever switch from if we ever confuse the upper and lower, it always keeps it with the x1 less and x and y1 less. Anyway, so that's for okay, until it gets a left button up. Okay, anyway, I can't, anyway, so here, so it's black and white. Now, notice if I go backward, it still works. Anyway, let's do this. Anyway, so now it has, let's exit. So now we have a, I think we have a, somewhere around here is a captured, oh no, wait a minute. I did not, we have a blank rectangle. I thought I was doing, there's another one which is insert screen captured bitmap. What the insert screen capture does is I inserted a blank bitmap. I'm sorry. Anyway, so we have the dimensions that we set forth. Now we draw in the bitmap. Anyway, exit. Okay, so let's analyze. Okay, so let's look at this code a little bit more. So we have xx1, yy1, xx2, yy2. Now it's when we specify, we do what do you call it? Non-inclusive. We bump these up so that it the math works out better. So it's inclusive of, the range is inclusive, or I don't remember. Anyway, so normally you would say x1 minus y1 plus 1. Now we can just do x1 and y1 because we already added the plus 1. So we create an element. The elements have to when the sprites are stored as binary. It's kind of like a byte code. The sprites are stored with a binary byte code, and this byte code element has a variable area. The bitmap is a variable sized area, so when we allocate memory, we have to do the base plus the data portion, the body. It's kind of like a header of a document and then the body. Anyway, we set the element type. It's a bitmap, or maybe it's a anyway, transparent bitmap. What are the other options? Anyway, we set the width and the height, and I should check that to see if that's multiple types. In the past it was multiple types. It might just be one type at this point. Anyway, we set the width and the height, and the bitmaps have a origin, and x1, y1 is the origin. This is subtracting the position of the x and y is the position of the tag. The tag is kind of like, would you call it an anchor? I don't know what you want to call it, but then we make a device context. This is for what we do is this is for converting to a. Let me explain what's going on. When we make a vector. So you see, we have vector. We have these vectors. Then when we convert to bitmap, let's use the extents, and now we have, instead of vectors, we have a bitmap. So this, do you understand the difference? Anyway, so at this point, what we are accomplishing at this point, we set aside an area for it. Now we have to draw what was existing previously. We fill in with the color we specify. It asks for the background color. Then this is the point in the vector list. Anyway, it draws the either it's a bitmap or it's all or either we keep the current bitmap or we redraw everything and make it into a bitmap. If you'll notice, it says convert to bitmap or edit bitmap. So if you have an existing bitmap, it edits it. Otherwise, it converts all of them to a bitmap by redrawing. It draws on a bitmap, and now it has a bitmap. Then it copies the body of the temporary device context that we created to do this operation. It had to resize it. That's why it, if it was an existing bitmap, it might be resized. Anyway, I do believe. Well, anyway. And now we jump into the bitmap menu. If you remember, it's a whole different menu when you're editing bitmaps. And when we exit, we come back out. We come back out of bitmap mode and we put it into the vector. It's basically a what you call it, degenerate. I don't know what you want to call it. It's a it's a bitmap, but it's stored as a single vector entry. And anyway, so that's the story of that.